Ego is not your enemy. On the contrary, it's the key to an abundance of success. Chances are you've probably heard that ego is bad or dangerous, but what if I told you that isn't the case? Watching Bluelock opened my eyes to the importance of being an egoist and how you need to feed your ego to be the best version of yourself. Without any sense of ego in this world, you'll be stepped on and pushed aside. Ego is a powerful tool when it comes to achieving an extraordinary level of success in any field. In this video, I'm going to explain the importance of honing your ego and using it to reach a level of success the average person finds impossible.
It's sad but true. You can't possibly become the world's best striker unless you're also the world's biggest egoist.
What exactly is ego? Ego is defined as the self, especially as contrasted with another self or the world. Synonyms include self-esteem, self-respect, and pride. Simply put, it's how you see yourself in comparison to someone else or the world in general. Now, why is this so important, especially in terms of creating success? Well, when you learn how to control and direct your ego towards positivity, then you can subconsciously change your life. If you truly believe that you're the greatest at what it is that you want to do, whether it's being a doctor, artist, or athlete, your ego will drive you to surpass limits you thought were unbreakable. The first step towards greatness is confidence. You can't accidentally become the greatest doctor of all time. You have to first believe that you're a great doctor before it will happen. This self-belief or ego is what will drive you to learn, work, and practice even when you don't feel like it. Hard work, dedication, and drive are all born from ego and self-belief. If you don't have faith in yourself, there will be no point in putting in the work. Putting in the work at whatever it is you want to do demonstrates faith and a sense of ego. The characters of Bluelock perfectly demonstrate all of these components of ego. When a challenge arises, in order to overcome that challenge, characters are constantly evolving and developing their ego to create better versions of themselves. For example, Nagi realizes during a 4-on-4 match that Isagi and Rin are equal mentally on the field. However, Rin has the advantage athletically, keeping Isagi one step behind. This forces Nagi to push past his limits to become the X factor for Isagi in order for the team to score. Nagi's egoism and belief in his physical ability over Rin, along with his trust in Isagi, allow for them to break through for a goal. In order to use ego to create success, you have to be able to accurately assess yourself in comparison to those around you, or even your current self, and be willing to adapt to a new and improved version of yourself. Without an ego, you will always hit a brick wall and cease to improve. With ego comes self-belief and a drive to be the absolute best, which forces you to evolve in ways you may not even think possible. This is perfectly demonstrated by Isagi's game-winning goal in his 2v2. Naruhaya, whose weapon is keen off-ball movement while breaking through, attempted to score a goal using a direct shot inspired by Isagi's weapon. The problem was his decision to use Isagi's weapon was only a last-second decision. Therefore, he wasn't fully committed. Seeing this, Isagi goes on the offensive and does the exact same, drawing inspiration from Naruhaya's off-ball movement, the main difference being Isagi completely took Naruhaya's weapon and committed fully to fusing it with his own. His ability to adapt his game by allowing his ego to evolve is why his attempt worked and Naruhaya's didn't. Ego is a prerequisite for achieving a high level of success in any field. After learning the importance of ego, the next question is how to create and hone it in a positive way.
They're listening to their egos. They're scoring goals for themselves. Why am I here? Why am I playing soccer? To find the true monster? Or because I want a friend? It can't be. If that's the reason, I'll never catch up to them. What is my ego? Do I even have one?
As I've said before, the importance of ego is undeniable, but now the question is, how do you create one if it doesn't exist? Then how do you sharpen it? Ego is created from your sense of self, no matter where that comes from. Bachira's character shows the journey of creating an ego from scratch. Bachira from a young age was always an outcast because of his insane amount of passion for soccer. This caused him to be bullied by other children his age. Due to the isolation, he found comfort in his imaginary friend he called the Monster. He started not only playing soccer, but living his whole life by listening to what the monster told him to do. Disregarding his own thoughts, he blindly followed the monster and started chasing after the thought of finding a real friend similar to the monster. This caused Bachira to play chasing after Isagi and also Rin in the Bluelock. During the 4v4 match, while Isagi and Rin were clashing egos, Bachira realized he was getting left behind and couldn't understand why. Through self-reflection and comparison, he realized this whole time he lacked an ego. Bachira realized that he could never catch up to Isagi with that style of play, and in that moment, Bachira created, or in his specific case, rediscovered his ego. This evolution allowed him to effortlessly dribble through Isagi's entire team after previously being completely stuck in the match. Looking at Bachira's story, as I mentioned, he found his ego through self-assessment. In order to find your ego, you have to first look at the self in relation to the world and others in it. Along with this, spending time listening to yourself, nurturing your inner voice. Whenever any player in Bluelock evolves their ego, they have an internal monologue where they go through all these steps, ultimately coming to an answer on how to improve their ego. This is how you refine your ego, by reflecting on your current self and destroying that version to create a better version you thought previously impossible. Doing this over and over will lead you to a place above everyone around you. A place only you can fathom because everyone else still thinks it's impossible to achieve. This is how you control your ego and use it as a weapon to propel you towards greatness. However, ego is also dangerous and can be a double-edged sword if not used properly, as we see with the king, Bado.
To hell with your chemical reactions. To hell with making the most of each other's plays. That might be the kind of soccer you want, but it makes me want to puke. You just want me to follow your orders. Say it however you like, but that's the only thing I'm hearing. You damn donkey.
Ego is a tool used to navigate the world around us. When we do good and accomplish our goals, our ego grows. With a growing ego, if not checked, narcissism can spiral out of control and pollute your ego. This is the greatest danger of the ego and why people often recommend avoiding having one in general. However, this is preventable. Ego and narcissism are often mistaken for being the same thing, but that's not the case. Through the process of ego depth, you can avoid the cynical trap that comes along with a big ego. In Bluelock, Bado's character is the perfect representation of this. From a young age, he played with the sense that when on the field, he was the only one that mattered. He was the most important and he could lead the team to victory or defeat all by himself. To Bado, his teammates were just a supporting cast to his lead. His raw talent and skill carried him far, reinforcing his beliefs and not only building his ego, but also his narcissism. This ideal wasn't challenged until he faced off against Isagi in the 2v2. Isagi and Nagi took advantage of his narcissism on the field and reluctance to pass and won the match by taking advantage of this weakness. In the next match, while on their team, Isagi and Nagi used Bado's selfishness again to their advantage. In their first match together, Isagi and Nagi decided to freeze Bado from the ball and use him as a decoy when possible to score. Realizing that he's not needed as the lead to score, this momentarily destroys Bado's ego. He begins to question himself and his purpose on the field. This is his ego death or loss of self. This is the most important factor of all when it comes to making sure your ego is used in a way that is beneficial and not detrimental. Ego death is the act of separating from the idea of the self you currently have and being open and aware of possibilities your previous self never even saw. In Bado's case, his former self, who only saw teammates as supporting cast, was left behind for his new self, which believed that in order to win, sometimes he has to let his teammates take the lead. Jinpachi's ego explains the importance of defeat and how it breeds despair that only the strong can use to gain the power to achieve their dream. Ego depth is essential to growth when backed into a corner, especially a corner caused by your unchecked ego. Ultimately though, ego is your best friend. Through ego, you can achieve what many think is impossible. By developing and feeding your ego, you can become great. Ego is not something you should be afraid of or ashamed to have. When nurtured and controlled correctly, it is an insanely powerful weapon that will lead you to success. Ego will push you when no one else will. Ego will force you to improve to live up to your ego you carry. If you made it this far in the video, I want you to know that you're capable of greatness, but only if you believe it. I love you, and I'm out. Peace.